And we welcome you into the Tuesday, May the 17th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Cold, dreary, miserable election day here in Kentucky. I was reading this morning where Skal is now up to number 11 on Chad Ford's big board for the NBA draft. Right after the season ended, Skal was number 20, and people were wondering if he would even be drafted in the first round. Now he's at number 11, and there's scuttlebutt he could get even higher than that before it's over. How do you rise 9 spots in the draft and you don't even play against anybody for 2 months? How does that happen? What has Skal done? He's had workouts when he was playing one on none. He wasn't playing against anybody. He was just in a gym running around shooting jumpers. How does that make someone rise 10 spots in the draft? I don't get that reasoning whatsoever. It's the Mike Mamula theory. I don't know if you remember Mike Mamula. At the NFL Draft Combine in 1995, he had worked out and just done the drills that they do at the Combine. And he perfected them, and he rose from like a mid-round pick to a top 10 pick just because he could do all those workouts. Now, he had a very mediocre career in the NFL, but he got his money. It looks like Skal's doing the same thing. If I just run around and shoot jumpers, they're going to put me up on the top of the list. I've said it once and I've said it again. For a guy that averaged 6 points and 3 rebounds a game last year, he's not a lottery pick. But he's going to get taken in the lottery. Whoever takes him, good luck. Courier-Journal caught up with Kirk Herbstreit, who was speaking in Louisville yesterday, and he talked about UK and said he'll be surprised if this isn't a breakthrough year for Kentucky football. Didn't he say that last year? I think he said the exact same thing last year. I think everybody said the exact same thing last year. Didn't happen then. He goes, I wouldn't be shocked to see 7 or 8 wins from this team. 8 wins? Do you know how many times that's happened in the last 40 years? 3 times. 3 times in 40 years, and you expect it to happen this year? Good luck. He also said the window of opportunity is open right now. No, it's not. Florida is getting better. Georgia is getting better. Tennessee is getting better. They are teams that had actually been struggling, and now they're back. The window of opportunity has been the last 2 or 3 years. Not now. South Carolina and Missouri are struggling, but South Carolina's on the way back up. I have no idea what to expect from Missouri this year, but your window of opportunity has come and gone. It's over. You're not beating Florida or Georgia or Tennessee anytime soon. The window's closed, Herbstreit, for Kentucky football, no matter what your personal relationship with Stoops is. But then again, all these ESPN college football talking heads, they're always positive, aren't they? They're not going to shoot down anybody's program, because they've got to protect their phony baloney job. If they poo-poo a program, that program's going to get mad. They're going to get kickbacks from the fan base. ESPN's not going to say anything bad about any team from the SEC because there's too much money involved. I wouldn't be shocked if Herbstreit said Vanderbilt's going to win 6 games and make a bowl too. As much as I like Herbstreit, he's a company man. He's protecting his phony baloney job. Put nothing behind his words, especially in these spring and summertime speaking engagements, because it's all fluff to make people feel good about themselves. Speaking of college football, Athlon magazine already has their magazine coming out. Yes, it's the middle of May for college football, 3.5 months away. How long has Athlon been around? Like for 155 years? They've been around forever. Anyway, their preseason rankings has Louisville number 19. I think it's a little low myself. I think Louisville's going to win at least 10 games this year with a great quarterback coming back, a ton of experience coming back, and a proven coach like Petrino, but that's just me. Not saying I'm a Louisville fan. On paper, I just know a good team when I see one. Their top 4 at Athlon, Alabama 1, followed by Florida State, Ohio State, and Clemson. The usual suspects. In terms of Louisville, I'll be very excited to see Florida State coming to Louisville September 17th. That's an early season game. Game of the year for Louisville if they can win that game. Then again, they also have to go to Clemson this year. So maybe there's more than one game of the year for that team. But still, I see good things in store for Louisville this year. 10 wins, easy. For those of you looking for an OVC football update, and then again, who is it? Maty Mauk, the former Missouri quarterback, is transferring to Eastern Kentucky. Why is he out at Missouri? Well, he had been suspended for drugs a few times, but they had to kick him out once a video came out of him snorting cocaine. If you're a freshman in psychology class, you can snort cocaine and nobody cares. If you're the quarterback of an SEC football team, you're gone. How good was Maty Mauk? Familiar name, over 4,000 yards passing in Missouri, played in 2 SEC championship games, started 1. Completion percentage, 52.7%. In today's college football, you can't complete less than 55% of your passes and expect to win football games. Now, he did at Missouri. Those 2 Missouri SEC Eastern Division championships are still 2 of the most miraculous things I've ever seen. And the reason why they made it was just like we talked about earlier. Missouri took advantage of the open window when Tennessee and Florida and Georgia were down and struggling. That's how Missouri capitalized. That window is closed, and it's closed really hard on Missouri. Their coach is gone. Now their quarterback, Maty Mauk, is gone. How will he do at Eastern? I have no idea. But I do know that at Missouri, he wasn't exactly the most accurate quarterback ever. Now, he did have 42 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. But Eastern runs that spread option under their former regime. Let's see what they do coming up. I have no idea what to expect, so your guess is as good as mine on how Maty Mauk will do at Eastern. But something tells me he just won't live up to the expectations, just like he didn't at Missouri. I was reading this morning, Marcus Lee has canceled all his workouts. I have no idea what that means. That means he's finally resigned to his fate, that he's not going to be drafted in the league, and he's just wasting everybody's time. Is he coming back to Kentucky to play his senior year? Chad Ford's recent top 100 players, he's not even on there. After his apparently horrible performance last week at the Combine, where statistically he was the worst player there. Makes you wonder how he even got invited in the first place. So Marcus Lee, who's proven nothing, maybe Marcus Lee has finally come to his senses and might be coming back to Kentucky. We'll see. The sports betting website Bovada has now listed their future odds for national champions in college basketball next year. Duke already favored at 4.5 to 1. UK is at 6 to 1. Villanova third at 8 to 1. Louisville and Kansas at 10 to 1. Louisville's tied for 4th favorite to win it all next year, huh? And then Michigan State and North Carolina at 12 to 1. This kid is going to declare this week, this Marcus Bolden kid, I wonder if he will sway the odds in any way. I have no idea at this point. That's for the wise guys out in Vegas. But it's basically a 2-horse race, both not only for him, not only to get that kid into school, but to be the favorite going in the next year for the national championship. Reds lose last night 15-6. Hey, they were up in the 3rd inning 4-3, but as we all know, that bullpen usually has a rough time. Bullpen only gave up 8 runs in 4 innings last night. No big deal. John Lamb, the starter, actually came in with a 1.80 ERA. He leaves the game with a 5.79 ERA. To just put this in perspective, the Reds gave up 15 runs last night. In the last 4 games against the Cleveland Browns, the Bengals have only allowed 16 points in those 4 games combined. So not a good night. The Reds now on pace to lose 98. Club record, 101. If they hustle, maybe they can catch up. Only bright spot continues to be Adam Duvall. Hit his 7th home run last night, on pace for 30 home runs. Playing left field now, full time apparently. A lot of people here remember Adam Dunn, who seemingly hit right at 40 home runs every year. He did it 4 times in a row. But since he left in 2007, it has been a revolving door of horrible in left field. From Lance Nix to Chris Heisey, to Ryan Ludwig, to Johnny Gomes, who actually played well for the Indians last night, to Marlon Byrd. They have been looking for a left fielder for years. Where have you gone, George Foster? But it looks like, for now at least, they found a left fielder for the time being in Adam Duvall. Now, will this keep up? He's on pace for 153 strikeouts, and he's only walked 6 times this year in 117 plate appearances. Compare that to Joey Votto, who in 154 plate appearances has walked 24 times. But still, Duvall not a bad return for that Mike Leake trade right at the deadline last July 31st. A lot of scuttlebutt still about this Joey Votto not throwing the ball to the fans in Philadelphia thing on Sunday. This poor guy, man, he can't win. Because people, if he's celebrating, people think he's fake. If he's not celebrating, he's a curmudgeon. He doesn't hit, but he walks too much. Marty Brennaman hates him. It seems like everybody in Cincinnati hates him. I love the guy. But this guy can't win. He simply cannot win. Just keep getting on base, Joey. You'll earn your money eventually. People say he's getting a free pass. Was he worth $200 million? Probably not. Well, I know he's not. But people forget, just last year, he was 3rd in the league in MVP voting on a last-place team. Who does that? This isn't Andre Dawson in 1987. This isn't A-Rod when he was with Texas. This is a player in last year's second half of the season had one of the greatest halves of a season in the history of the game. It amazes me. It just proves the fact that we always say on this show, it's who you are. And appearances matter. And body language matters. And Joey Votto's appearance and body language just doesn't rub people the right way. They don't like the cut of his jib. Tonight, Cincinnati and Cleveland will face off again. Another 6:10 start. I kind of liked it because actually my dad and I can watch games when they start at 6:10 in the evening. Not those West Coast type games. Alfredo Simon for the Reds, 8.67 ERA, down from 13.50 2 starts ago. And Danny Salazar, a tight 1.90 ERA for the Indians. Reds still at 3 wins on the road this year, worst in Major League Baseball. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Indians deservedly a minus 235 tonight. If you take either team tonight, it has to be the Reds. You can't lay 235 with anybody in baseball. But I would not feel good about taking the Reds tonight. This is a pass for me, and just enjoy it for what it is. Probably a Cleveland blowout. NBA, Oklahoma City upsets Golden State in Oakland last night. Yet another questionable call that goes OKC's way. And, of course, we're waiting on the NBA to apologize for it, just like they had to twice in their series with San Antonio. Makes you think the NBA offices want OKC to get to the finals, huh? They still won't make it. Vegas still has Golden State minus 170 to win this series. It's still theirs to lose. Steven Adams of OKC, right after the game, called Steph Curry and Klay Thompson a couple of monkeys. I hope nothing becomes of this, but in today's society, you know it will. The last time I heard somebody called monkey on the air, it was Howard Cosell 30 years ago, and that was the last night he was ever on network television. That was 30 years ago, before social media and all this stuff that goes on now. Howard Cosell called a little receiver for Washington a little monkey. What a lot of people didn't know is that he called a lot of kids a little monkey, white, black, whatever. Not taking up for it, not saying that it wasn't a bad thing to say, because it was. But still, we'll see what happens to Steven Adams. Hopefully nothing, but let's just see what the Twitterverse has to say about it. Tonight, Toronto and Cleveland start their series in Cleveland. Cleveland a 10.5-point favorite. Tough not to like Cleveland tonight, especially after Kyle Lowry, after Game 7 of their last series, said that LeBron is one of the best players in the league other than Steph. Yeah, that won't go over too well. LeBron will be fired up. This is a gentleman's sweep type series. Give me Cleveland in 5 here. Baseball, if you have the MLB app downloaded to your phone, I have it on my iPhone, I've been getting these weird updates lately about Joe DiMaggio getting base hits. And what it is, it's Major League Baseball recognizing the 75th anniversary of Joe DiMaggio and his 56-game hitting streak. But I don't need to be updated every day where and when he got his base hits, who off of, and whatever. Yo, MLB, we got it. It was a hit streak. It was pretty awesome. It happened 75 years ago. I don't need updates on my phone about it. If I want to look it up, I'll go on Wikipedia or something. Don't send me a text every day saying Joe DiMaggio got a hit against the White Sox in the 3rd inning. Something tells me that'll stop really soon. Are you familiar with the name Marcell Ozuna? Unless you're a fantasy player like me, you probably are not. Going into this season, Ozuna had a lifetime batting average of .265. All of a sudden, who's the new hitting coach for the Miami Marlins, his team? Barry Bonds. Ozuna starts using Barry Bonds' bat. Now, all of a sudden, speaking of hitting streaks, Ozuna has a 16-game hitting streak and he's hitting over 300. Coincidence? Do you think Barry Bonds is teaching him? Or do you think he's helping him cheat? I know what I think, and cheaters always prosper. Speaking of Bonds, he said Bryce Harper is a good player, but he needs some more stolen bases. This is an old bitter man who's refusing to admit that Bryce Harper might be a better player than he is. He's good, needs a steal. Kind of like when I was growing up on the farm and I would do a job for my dad and I thought I did it perfectly, and then he would come check out how well I did, and then he would say something like, "You did awful, look at this, and look at that, you're terrible, you're the worst ever, why do you even try?" Well, maybe that was just how I was raised. But still, what Barry Bonds sees in Bryce Harper is a guy who's going to break all his records if he doesn't screw it up. Then again, Major League Baseball probably doesn't even want to recognize Barry Bonds' records at this point. What do you do if you're the manager of a team that has a $200 million payroll and you've lost 11 out of 13 games and you have an 86-year-old owner who wants to win right now? Well, if you're Brad Ausmus, you take your jersey off and you put it right over home plate when you get pissed off at an umpire. This is a guy who's dead man walking. It's between him and Freddie Gonzalez of the Braves who gets fired first. Then again, Freddie Gonzalez has no chance. It's not his fault that his team still hasn't hit double-digit home runs yet this year. He just doesn't have players. But if you're Ausmus with Detroit and you're 17-21, 7 games back, I wouldn't buy a house. I'd rent an apartment. It's between him and Freddie Gonzalez who gets fired first. My money's on Freddie, but Ausmus won't be too far behind. Football, Jeremy Hill of the Bengals still upset on that fumble against the Steelers in the playoff game last year that actually cost the Bengals the game. Everybody focuses on Burfict's penalties, on Pac-Man Jones' penalties. It wasn't their fault. They wouldn't even have been put in that situation if Jeremy Hill didn't fumble on a first down with a little over 2 minutes to go in the game. I can't believe that the media has let this guy off the hook and put it all on Burfict and Pac-Man. It just makes for better copy and a better story and more clicks on your website if you make fun of the guys who laid Antonio Brown out and had these late hits instead of the guy who actually fumbled. Jeremy Hill, 2 years, over 1,900 yards and 21 touchdowns rushing, including leading the league last year with 11. You have to wonder from a fantasy perspective whether he can stay at that level this coming year, especially with Gio Bernard around. More football, that Russell Wilson commencement speech on Saturday getting picked apart. Apparently one of his teammates said it was complete and utter BS. Another teammate called it phony and said he had his head up the butts of every coach on North Carolina State when he was there. Tom O'Brien, his former coach, who allegedly told him that he'll never be a pro quarterback, when asked about his speech, O'Brien said, good for him. A lot of holes in this Russell Wilson story. Just like I've always thought Russell Wilson was one of the most fake people in the league. Right up there with Peyton Manning. Now, Russell Wilson doesn't make my Mount Rushmore of jerks in sports. Those will be Peyton Manning, Jim Nantz, Ryan Braun, and Lance Armstrong. It's tough to beat those guys. But Russell Wilson is at the foot of that mountain for sure. Charlie Weis hasn't coached Notre Dame in several years, but he still is getting paid. Charlie Weis made $2.05 million from Notre Dame last year. By the way, their current coach, Brian Kelly, made $1.62 million last year. When Weis got fired, he got a $19 million buyout. That's the best contract ever. I mean, there's been a lot of bad contracts. The fact that he got $19 million from Notre Dame, his first 2 years, 9-3, 10-3. Great. After that, he went 16-21. Then he goes to Kansas, and he goes 6-22. His lifetime career coaching record in college is 41-49. And this guy's made gazillions of dollars. And what did he ever do? He was offensive coordinator under Belichick. Wow. Looks like a genius when you have Tom Brady out there, don't you? But then again, don't knock a man's hustle. He deserves every penny, I guess, because somebody gave it to him. Or somebody was dumb enough to give it to him. Mac Daddy Stogie picks for tonight. Took one on the chin out in Oakland last night, 3-1 loss. Another one got rained out. But we've got 3 more for tonight, including that same game that we had last night. They're just going to transfer the starting pitchers over tonight. We have Boston at Kansas City. We gave you all the reasons yesterday. Rich Porcello, Yordani Ventura. Give me Kansas City getting odds tonight at home against Boston, who's on fire. We won't go over the reasoning again that we gave you yesterday. 2 more games for tonight. Tampa and Toronto, 2 underachieving teams so far this year. Tampa getting a good number. You're getting about plus 135 up in Toronto, and you're getting a good pitcher. Chris Archer, 4.57, but his last 4 starts, his ERA's been under 2. Against Marcus Stroman, another good, tough pitcher who's also had a tough time so far this year. He's at 3.54 ERA. Toronto's lost 3 in a row, including that bean brawl game down in Texas on Sunday. Lost 3 in a row, 9-11 at home this year. Tampa won this game 13-2 last night. Tampa didn't use any of their stud bullpen guys. I like Tampa, especially getting a strong number in Toronto. Tampa with Chris Archer plus the 135 is one pick for tonight. And we're going back to Oakland. Texas and Oakland. Cole Hamels starting for the Rangers, 2.95. Jesse Hahn, 3.00 for the A's. Hahn this year at home has an ERA of 0. Rangers 8-10 on the road. I'm going to switch over to Oakland tonight. Give me Oakland with a pitcher who's proven himself at home, getting plus 115. Give me the home dog, Oakland A's, over Texas tonight. So your Mac Daddy Stogies for the night, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and Oakland. You can take those picks to the desert and smoke them. And that's it for the Tuesday, May the 17th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at BottomLineLex. Email us anytime, bottomlinelex@gmail.com. And make sure to follow this YouTube channel. Thanks again, and until the next time, may the winners be yours.